What is going on, everyone? Welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat Podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks. It's Brian Hines back as always with Alex Barth. Day 11 of Patriots training camp is in the books here after a longer, fully padded session yesterday and a joint practice with the Commanders coming up tomorrow. It was another walkthrough for the Patriots today, dialed back the intensity, the bucket hats, the sneakers. We're back out. There was some 90 baseball movie talk in the media tent today for a lot of practice, but a couple things we'll get to still that took place and that we noted of during that walkthrough. And then we're going to preview the Commanders practice, the big joint practice tomorrow. But starting with today, Barth, they split in two fields, Drake May on one side, Josh Dobbs, Ben Woldridge on the other one. And the wide receivers working with Drake May were noteworthy because it was the five we've been talking about a lot: Stephon Diggs, Demario Douglas, Kayshon Boutte, Kyle Williams, and Mac Hollins. But a sixth was in there, and that was Javon Baker getting some time with Drake May, coming off maybe one of his best practices of the summer yesterday. A couple touchdowns and 7-on-7s, had a really nice, high point grab back shoulder from Josh Dobbs in 11. So is Javon Baker, Barth, kind of moving his way up the depth chart here into that 6 wide receiver spot?
Well, I would just like to mention that when I first brought my Javon Baker take up last week on the crossover, I got laughed at a little bit. I did, by you and Taylor and Mike and Evan. And look, I still don't think he's going to make the team. He's on the outside looking in. But clearly the coaches saw what I saw, because now he's getting reps over Polk. That was what we talked about, right? He's getting reps over Polk. He's getting reps over Chisholm. So, it hasn't been perfect by any means, but I think he's more or less made the most of the opportunities he's been given, and now he's being rewarded with that. And it comes just in time, because these joint practices and then the preseason game, like if he is going to make a real roster push, this is when it's going to happen. This practice, the 2 practices in Minnesota next week, these 3, I don't know exactly how Vrabel does it, but like these 3 alone might be worth as much as every other practice combined, right? Like they're all weighted differently. This practice means a lot more than a walkthrough or even some of those non-padded practices at the beginning of camp. So it's a good start for him. He has to keep it up. He hasn't done enough by any means, but clearly they're liking something they see, more so than with Polk and more so than with Chisholm. And like we talked about Chisholm, I think it was yesterday. It feels like he's getting open, but there's maybe something going on there where he's not getting those reps with the top unit. It might not be him. It might be a stylistic thing. Like Baker is more of that jump ball, 50-50 ball receiver that they don't have. They have other guys that profile like Chisholm. But yeah, Baker's been off to a solid start here, and the coaching staff seems to agree.
Yeah. And that's the thing with Baker. And you mentioned it, like the 50-50 ability, even the vertical speed. Like they don't have a lot of guys at that X spot. If you look at like Mac Hollins, Kayshon Boutte, who's been out there a lot, who have that kind of vertical speed. And now Kyle Williams has that, but he's a little smaller than Javon Baker, right? Yeah. You probably would rather have Javon Baker going up to get those 50-50 balls. So, he's still 23 years old. There's obviously a lot of talent. Like you see it in flashes, and then he has some of that skill set that they're missing in that room. So that could kind of set the stage. There's still those inconsistencies though. Like he hasn't had that clean practice yet, right? Like even yesterday when he seems to be making some plays, he's trending in a positive direction. One of his last plays of the game, he looks like he's about to catch a touchdown, and then Brandon Crossley comes in like really late and punches the ball out, and he just couldn't finish the play, right? So there's still those inconsistencies that, as we saw kind of last year, plagued him, but the talent and the skill set in that room is interesting. So this does seem like they're maybe setting the stage for him to maybe start working with Drake a little bit more. And now he's got to take advantage of those opportunities. So he was among those 6 wide receivers in that group. And then that left, Chisholm and Polk, John Giles, Jeremiah Webb to round that group out, playing with Josh Dobbs. So I would imagine that kind of holds for the joint practices. And then those, Baker, Chisholm, Polk get a lot of reps in that preseason game Friday night too, as they keep shaking out that wide receiver room. But Baker was kind of the big thing with joint practice today. The other one on the offense was Morgan Moses. He went out there and then he left very quickly, kind of like what he's been doing this whole summer. And for the most part, this summer, it's been Trey Jacobs first up at right tackle today. You saw a lot more Marcus Bryant kind of in that rotation, 7th-round rookie. So another guy who maybe is making a little bit of a push up the depth chart here, Marcus Bryant, for that swing tackle role there.
Yeah, I still think they're more worried than maybe we are about that backup or other people. I've been harping on this, the backup offensive line situation. Like it's not, especially a tackle, it's not good. Getting Vidarian Lowe back will help, but I this is a spot where it wouldn't surprise me if they make a waiver claim and they pick somebody up because they probably like DeMontre Jacobs better on the right side, but he's exclusively a right tackle. So now you have to keep another backup left tackle, which maybe they'd rather keep an extra interior guy, given how young they are up the middle. If Bryant is more of a swing tackle, but he's more of an unknown. He's a 7th-round pick. He's never played in the NFL before. So maybe that's why he's getting more run at right tackle. They know Jacobs is just on that one side. And okay, let's see if Marcus Bryant can be a true swing tackle. If not, even if they keep Vidarian Lowe, well, now you need a backup right tackle. And maybe that's Caden Wallace, but he really hasn't repped a tackle in camp. I don't want to say exclusively because maybe there was 1 or 2 snaps there I don't remember, but he seems to be a guard at this point, more or less. So if Bryant can be a swing tackle that answers a lot, like a capable swing tackle that answers a lot, an important question for them. But I think they're kind of scrambling to figure out how to put that thing together and that's on not including, I should say, the questions you have about Will Campbell and Morgan Moses. And look, we're show this pretty positive on Will Campbell, but I've said all along, like he is a rookie. There are natural questions. His arms were 35-inch long. There are natural questions that come with a rookie adapting to the NFL, and you worry about that. I am probably more worried about right tackle than left tackle at this point, just because we're getting to the point where, okay, I get you want to give some veterans maintenance days. With Morgan Moses, like Carlton Davis, I don't mind the maintenance days because Carlton Davis' assignment every week is going to be, here's your receiver, study him, learn him, go play man. Like, I don't know how overly complex his role is going to be. Whereas for a tackle, there's a lot more going on. So I'd like to see Morgan Moses getting more involved at this point. It seems like he's been less involved the last couple of days.
And it's not like those, like we saw Harold Landry have a veteran rest day the other day, and that was, he would fully practice, 5 or 6 days and then take one day where he's kind of off to the side. This has been pretty much every practice, it feels like, for Morgan Moses. There was 1 or 2 where maybe he upped his participation levels at times, but this has become kind of a daily thing. So you would like to see him in there, getting that kind of chemistry with Big Mike, because Big Mike also spent the spring limited, so they didn't really work together much in the spring, and now the summer, Morgan Moses has been in and out a lot of the lineup. So agree with you there. And with Marcus Bryant, it is kind of interesting because he played left tackle primarily at Missouri, right? He was opposite Armand Membu. So if he is comfortable on the right side, like maybe you do have a swing tackle there, like a true swing tackle.
Well,
but
he started. He was it 1 or 2 years he started on the right side at SMU before
1 year at SMU. I could
he was a true swing tackle in college. He only played the left at Missouri, but he moved around in college. I'll pull it up. But
so it's not like Vidarian Lowe or Trey Jacobs where you were more comfortable with them at one side. He could give you that true kind of back and forth versatility, but he is a 7th-round pick. He has some intriguing tools and size. But
500 snaps, by the way, for Brian on the right side.
Okay, there you go. So plenty of experience, good amount of experience on the right side. So he's kind of an interesting name to watch in that mix. We'll say just the rest of that starting group, same: Will Campbell, Jared Wilson, Garrett Bradbury, Michael Winu, left to right. The backup unit, you saw Vidarian Lowe and Jack Conley at tackles. Ben Brown still getting some work at left guard and center. Did you read into anything when they were kind of on split field? Cole Strange was the backup with that starting unit, and Ben Brown was on, taking snaps on the second unit. Did you read into that at all?
I'm trying to remember. Was Brown at guard or center on the second unit?
He did both. So he started at guard and then he ended practice at center.
I wonder if that's just wanting to get him more reps.
Yeah, I could see that. And then Cole Strange and Tyrese Robinson were kind of the 2 backups over with the top unit on Drake May's field. So that's the O-line situation. A lot of that depth, talk about big week and joint practices and preseasons coming up. You know, those guys will be tested in the trenches as well, full pads and game action. But anything else? Those were kind of the big two: Javon, Morgan Moses. Anything else from the walkthrough today that you
Nah,
took
that's pretty
note
much
of?
it. I was trying to remember, and I meant to notice it during practice, and I didn't. Which linebacker was wearing his helmet?
Spillane
It was Spillane. I
was.
thought so. Okay,
I know
because
last walkthrough Gibbons also had one. I don't remember if he had one today.
okay, just because that's your green dot guy.
Yeah, but
Because none
definitely,
of the players have not been wearing helmets in these walkthroughs, but the quarterbacks are because they want to simulate getting the call. So you figure whoever's wearing it on defense, and it was Spillane again. So
yep. The only other
which
note I
I mean
had,
I think is as expected.
yeah, definitely. But the only other note I had was Carlton Davis did participate, and you still saw, DJ James working in opposite of him. So, it seems like him and Alex Austin have kind of separated them in that depth
Yep.
cornerback room. And we've talked a lot about DJ James having a good summer, but still getting reps out there with Carlton Davis even participating. Obviously, that's Christian Gonzalez's spot when he's healthy, but DJ James and Alex Austin have a leg up there. It seems like in that depth room, but that is all that went down pretty much at the walkthrough today. So now we're going to look ahead to tomorrow a little bit. Again, big practice, joint practice with the Washington Commanders. Before we do that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Prize Picks. And do you know ball? Because football season is right around the corner, but it is game week for the Patriots Friday night at Gillette Stadium. Commanders, Patriots, and you can spice up that preseason action on Prize Picks, the best place to cash in on your favorite sports. Just pick more or less on receiving yards, rushing yards, passing yards, touchdowns, interceptions, sacks. All of it is available for you to win up to 2,000 times your cash today, and even take advantage of their weekly promotions that can link to big payouts Friday night. What better time to join in on the fun during a Flex Friday where projections can be discounted for you? So we'll see. Hopefully we get a little clarity on who's actually going to play in this preseason game for the Patriots, but guessing not a lot of Drake May if he gets a lot of snaps Wednesday, so you can roll with Josh Dobbs, Ben Woldridge, those depth receivers. Throw Javon Baker into your lineup, Efton Chisholm, piling up the catches, and put all those guys in to find a winning lineup there. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly. Again, after you play your first $5 lineup, all over on Prize Picks. Run your game. All right. Commanders in town for this joint practice tomorrow on Wednesday. Barth, what is kind of the number one thing you are looking forward to on your radar there?
I'll go rookies big picture. Will Campbell, obviously, and the Commanders don't have a great pass rush, but Von Miller, you figure, might have something left in the bag for him. Dietrich Wise has very long arms. So there, and he's probably coming in with the hair across his ass as he should. So there's that side of it. Travion Henderson has, I think, been the best rookie in camp. So obviously, can he keep that up? Can Jared Wilson, does he continue to justify quickly getting pushed into a starting role? And then Kyle Williams. Like, Kyle Williams had that really good start to camp and then really hasn't done much of anything since. Our corners kind of figuring out his tendencies, what's going on there. He's got to start to show something here. And so this is a good opportunity against a new look defense to do that.
Yep. Travion Henderson, I want to see a 1v1 Travion Henderson versus Bobby Wagner. That would just be assault for poor Bobby Wagner there.
Well, Bobby Wagner faced Shane Vereen in that Super Bowl, and now he'd get the new Shane Vereen.
And it did not.
He's been in the league.
How many catches did Shane Vereen have in that Super Bowl?
A lot. I think he set the running back record for catches in a Super Bowl.
I want to say 14, but that feels like
sounds
absurdly amount of catches. So, Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu. Hopefully, Von Miller isn't doing any coverage, but he'll be a good test. The ghost of Von Miller for the lineman. I'm really looking. You mentioned Kyle Williams, and even those kind of depth receivers behind, or really just the whole receiver room, against this other competition. Keyshawn Boutte, Kyle Williams, Mac Hollins, Baker, Chisholm, Polk.
Shane Vereen caught 11 passes in that Super Bowl.
11. Okay, targets. So 14 was a little much, but still 11 impressive. But Yeah, the Patriots wide receiver room, even Steph Diggs, against other competition that's not, a New England corner. And you look at the Washington, we kind of trashed on their pass rush a little bit over the last week or so, but you look at their cornerback room, like Marshawn Lattimore, Mikey Sanders still. They use a high pick on Trey Amos this year in the draft, who's reportedly having a really good camp, it sounds like, down there. You have Jonathan Jones behind them, so they have a pretty good cornerback room. So I think it'll be a good test for really this whole Patriots receiver room. Again, Diggs in his first kind of real action here in 8 or 9 months, and then sort out even those depth guys. Can Chisholm separate himself against some higher competition, or Polk and Baker keep going? So those receivers and those one-on-ones are in the 11s and 7s if whatever they decide to do tomorrow. Like watching those against a good Washington quarterback room, I think will be fun to watch and telling and when it comes to that competition in that room.
Yeah.
So that'll be good. Other Commanders, they have Laremy Tunsil. They draft Josh Connerly in the first round. They have a good offensive line, so good test for Christian Barmore, Milton Williams. Anyone Patriots wise, or a couple players who you think need to have kind of a really good practice tomorrow to kind of, I don't know, either get back on track or keep the momentum going and just continue this into the preseason game Friday night there?
Yeah. So I said Kyle Williams. I don't know the knee, so he's going to make the team, right? But I'd like to see something from that. Cole Strange is kind of in a rough spot right now with Ben Brown starting to play guard. He's got to show up. He's got to do something. He's probably on my list of guys that could afford to gain some ground. Jalen Polk, if he's going to put up a fight for a roster spot, it's kind of now or never. I mean, Javon Baker too, but he's at least trending in the right direction. Jalen Polk is not. On defense, I feel like the defense has had a solid camp. Kyle Duggar. We'll see where Kyle Duggar's at. It's kind of weird that they're minimizing him like this. Like he's finally healthy. Seems like a Mike Vrabel kind of player. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on there unless he's still hurt. We talked about this a little bit yesterday that something is off, whether that's the coaching staff's done with him or he's still banged up or whatever. But, they're really going to be working on what they're going to do in the regular season. So we'll see how much that involves Kyle Duggar.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, he looks healthy. He seems to be moving well, but he's been giving up a lot of plays. He hasn't had, a turnover, and that's what you want, him down in the box and, having interceptions and getting around the football. But he feels like he's been on more bad sides of plays. So see if they maybe lean into more Craig Woodson. We still seen a lot of Jalen Hawkins in that secondary, and what's going on with Kyle Duggar as you said, get a little more into game action. But what do you want to see from Drake May tomorrow against, a new opponent here for the first time this summer?
Not sound like a broken record. Don't turn the ball over. Like, just take care of the freaking football.
Yeah.
And we'll see him test some tight windows, I'm sure. And we'll see him throw the ball down the field and all that. Turnover-free practice. That would be incredibly encouraging.
Big one. Definitely big one. You mentioned, talking about those Washington corners, keep the ball away from those guys. That would be encouraging right there. So those are some guys to watch, some matchups we'll be keeping an eye on. Anything else that just kind of catches your eye for tomorrow to wrap this up?
So I don't know if Vrabel's going to do this the way Bill did, but they would almost always, they'd have a joint practice with the team, and 1 or 2 years later, almost always some player on that team would end up on the Patriots. So just looking at the Commanders roster, maybe,
Terry
bubble
McLaurin.
guys. Well, Terry McLaurin, obviously. So Beetle flipped out because I said on the swearing show with Beetle, he asked me what matchup I wanted to see, and I said Elliott Wolf and Adam Peters. Because if they're talking on the sideline, we're all going to be binoculars out, lip reading. What did he say? Second round pick, first round pick? What did he say? So, that sort of thing. Obviously that one, but bubble guys, is there anybody on that team, especially maybe to position of need for the Patriots? Do we see, they have their answer at left tackle in Laremy Tunsil, and they have quite a few true left tackles on that roster. So
they have 8 total tackles on their depth chart right now. I was on it. They have 4 left and 4 right. So
8 plus. Does that count Brandon Coleman as a tackle or guard?
He's listed at left guard. So
he can play. I think is he a starter for them?
He started the second half of last year, I want to say. Now I think he is starting, but I think he started at right I think he was forced to start at tackle, and now they got Tunsil, they drafted Connerly, so I think they're planning on starting him at guard this year.
All right, whatever. The point being, like 8 tackles are not going to make the roster, right? So does one of those tackles maybe pop to this coaching staff? And when it comes to roster cuts, they're monitoring him and seeing where he's at. Maybe that's where that swing tackle comes from. They've got, quite a deep running back room. I don't think they necessarily need another running back, but you never know with injuries. Demetric Felton is a guy to me that always felt like a Josh McDaniels fit. And I know he plays a special teams role for them, but they have Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Eckler, Krosky Merritt, the rookie, I believe, is having a good camp. And I like Chris Rodriguez. So that's kind of a crowded room there. If they need a third tight end, there's some tight end depth there too. It's not great. Like the talent level isn't high, but Zach Ertz, Ben Sinnott, Cole Turner, like they've got some guys who can play. So if you're talking about a third tight end. So just kind of looking at those guys, and does one of those guys pop free come roster cuts and get the Patriots' attention? Also, who else is on the roster? And shout out to this guy for still being in the league. Carl Davis still kicking around. How about that?
The D lineman?
The former Patriots defensive tackle,
Tackle, how about that?
Patriots legend Carl Davis.
Good for him. Well, he was 23 his last year here, right?
22.
22. He was with Seattle for a little bit, I remember. But Carl Davis, how about that? Yeah. They have a good interior. Darren Payne, Javon Kinlaw, got Jazar Newton, Eddie Goldman.
Right.
So,
but just like, are there any guys on the Commanders that we look at, especially like tackle would be the big one to me? Do any of those depth tackles, like this guy looked pretty good today? Do the Patriot, wait for roster cuts? Do you, maybe that's a guy you would trade a 7th for instead of risking him getting cut, something like that? Because I do think there's going to be at least one tackle on the week 1 roster that's not on the team right now. So it would make sense if it's somebody they can get a closer look at.
Who was the one we thought we cracked the code last year on Philly? We thought they were going to claim him, remember? It was a guy we liked out of
Darian Kennard.
Darian Kennard, yeah. And then they ended up keeping him because he had a really good camp and he's got that tackle guard versatility. So Philly ended up keeping him. But like that was the idea, right? Like one of those depth guys who is flying under the radar, and with a team now that has Tunsil and Josh Connerly, someone that might get pushed down the depth chart. So definitely worthy of keeping an eye on. We'll see if anyone impresses from the Washington side down the depth chart as well. But that'll do it. Day 11, again, a walkthrough, a slow one, getting ready for that joint practice tomorrow. And there are some names, matchups, players we'll be looking out for during that session. So make sure you guys are locked on to Patriots Press Pass. Like, subscribe, turn on your notifications so you do know when we are going live. I think the plan is to go live from the stadium tomorrow. So make sure you have your notifications on so you know exactly when that is going to happen. And if you guys are on audio only, make sure you subscribe wherever you are listening, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Please subscribe there as well. You can also follow Barth on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. Head over to 985thesportshub.com for his Patriots training camp coverage. And you can follow me on Twitter at I am Brian Hines, and head over to patspulpit.com for our coverage there as well. So thanks everyone for jumping on with us today, and we will see you guys back tomorrow.
Bye.